Okay, so I got the 2 cubes. Excuse me, I'm sucking on a maple sugar. One of my, I'm sucking on my inventory. Maple sugar candy dipped in, hard candy dipped in the beeswax oil that I'm trying to sell. Anyway, so I got my 2 cubes of frozen cream cheese, organic cream cheese, and this is the little square cube of beeswax I'm going to use. Not a lot. Little dab'll do me. Here's a little trick I just learned. I got out my sharp knife and I flipped the container of coconut butter that I had in the fridge so it's solid upside down and it slid right out. And then I just shoved this knife, this sharp cutting knife, straight down in the middle, and it split this in half. So I should be able to chunk this up and get the right size chunk I want to get in there without too much trouble. So that's how much coconut butter I put in there. So that's the piece down below that's about halfway up, I guess, from where my thumb is. Yeah, more or less, the top of my thumb. And then I broke it up and put it in there. So I got a few chunks. This is the larger of the 3. So it should be enough. So now I got it on warm setting. Not low, not high. And I'm going to heat it up and hopefully melt everything. Okay, so I've melted all the coconut oil, but the wax is still a chunk. Where is it in here? And the cream cheese has defrosted, but the wax is like refusing to melt. It's like, here it is. Well, it's not refusing, but it's certainly shy about melting. So what I feel like doing is speeding things up a bit, because as I add ingredients the wax may solidify and ruin things. I may need it hot when I put it into the pie pan. So I think I'm going to put it on the next setting. And that should help, because I have other things to mix. And bring those up to temperature. At the same time, keep the beeswax in a liquid state. So the oil isn't a problem. The oil is actually easier to liquefy, the coconut butter. And that makes sense, because coconut oil, because coconut oil has a lower melting temperature than the beeswax, so that makes sense. I'll just have to raise the temperature. Camera's having trouble focusing, maybe because I have such a shaky hand. There we go. So I'm beginning to think that what we do with eggs is what we could have done with beeswax. In other words, eggs lends structure, not only to food by solidifying the albumin, solidifying the food structure, but also lending structure to the mind. Or else, why would people eat it? There's really no reason to. So I think beeswax is the substitute, both physiologically and structurally, neurologically, for what eggs satisfies in the human experience of eating. Personally, I think the eggs is a little toxic. It has so many weird things in it that other things like raw fish doesn't even have. It's amazing we get away with eating it. It's not a very refined food. It's very gross. dairy isn't a problem, especially if it's organic, and then you get into other problems, like if peanuts are conventional rather than organic, then you get into aflatoxin problems. But eggs, even organic, free-range, brown, nothing works. I've tried everything, and they're still pretty gross in the sense that they have toxins, in which I have to take potassium iodide just to clear myself of the toxins. So what's the point? Why bother eating it? Well, because if we don't find a substitute, then it would be a problem. So I think beeswax is the substitute. It bypasses the grossness and the toxins and simply gives us the experience, the structural integrity that egg albumin would have given us had we congealed it during cooking. But beeswax already has that structure when cold. So there's no need to process beeswax to get the benefit. The only reason I bother to melt beeswax in an oil base is out of convenience, not due to the fact that the body can't digest it. It can digest it very nicely just as it is. The problem is, chewing it, and who wants to deal with it directly as a singular food item. So I have to melt it to hide it in an oil-based recipe. So really, that's the only reason for bothering to process beeswax. Unlike eggs, how many people eat raw eggs? Very few. Most people eat them cooked in some fashion. Well, I mixed in the chocolate or the cocoa powder, the sugar, the various herbs, and coconut flour helped to soak up a lot of the fluid, but it still left some fluid behind. So now I'm going to pour it into a pie tin and bake it in the oven, in order to bake the pie tin actually, because this is already thoroughly cooked. And then I'll take it out to solidify, and the wax should help it to set. Well, here's my finished product. That's a bit of the pie crust, and that's chocolate flavored cheesecake. And it has a kind of a chunky, crispy texture to it. It's not like soft cheesecakes, so when I stick my butter knife in there to try to cut it, it'll cut. I just do have to apply a little bit of pressure, but it will cut. It's firm. It's kind of like cheesecake, firm but solidified slightly, and that's what the wax contributes. Now, of course, there's coconut butter in here, and I refrigerated this so the coconut butter is also solidifying. I could have used a different oil, and it would be a little less solid. A lot of the liquid boiled off when I baked it in the oven. I baked it for about 45 minutes on 350. So I put a good deal of sugar. I didn't measure anything. I just threw a little of this and a little of that. So maybe I could have used a little less sugar. The cocoa powder, the baking cocoa, probably was okay. It seemed strong at first, but now I don't mind. I'm getting used to it. I could have left the cocoa powder out, I suppose, if I wanted to vary it. I don't have to have chocolate all the time. Yeah, I might get tired of chocolate. So it works, and I have it with bread, toast, because I like to have pie with bread. I like to have bread with a lot of things. Very Russian, just like my grandma. So it works very nicely, putting a little piece of beeswax in a cheesecake recipe. I thought I'd mention I've been eating up my chocolate-flavored cream cheese pie, beeswax, chocolate-flavored beeswax cream cheese pie, or cream cheese beeswax, or cream cheese coconut oil beeswax pie. Cream cheese coconut oil maple sugar beeswax pie. Because there's really, that's the ingredients, is cream cheese, organic cream cheese, coconut oil, maple sugar, chocolate or cocoa powder, a little bit of sunflower lecithin. I could have added more. And I could have left out the chocolate, reduced the sugar slightly maybe, or eliminate it altogether, I'm not sure, but definitely add in lemon juice. And so it would have been a lemony cream cheese, and then skip the pie crust, and then I've got myself a candy bar. a basis for making my own beeswax candy bar. And of course, the main ingredient, the main flavor sources, of course, is the source of sugar. In this case, maple sugar lends its own flavor. The coconut oil. Oh, another thing I added to the pie thing, I forgot. Coconut flour to give it some body. So between the coconut flour and the coconut oil, and the cream cheese, and something sweet maybe, but definitely something lemony, lemon juice, and the beeswax. And I didn't put a whole lot of beeswax, so I didn't even notice it was there. And I store it in the fridge, and so the coconut oil solidifies, and that's what's really noticeable, is the solidity due to the coconut oil. But it breaks apart. I think the cream cheese and the coconut flour makes it possible for the mass to break up easily, even though it's straight out of the fridge. So it's not that hard to cut with a butter knife. It takes a little pressure, but it's not too bad. And so it's crunchy. That's probably due to the coconut oil, giving it that solidity. Certainly not the beeswax, because there's so little in there. So it could use some lemon juice and could use some more lecithin, and so little. I mean, lecithin is very potent, so it's very little that's in there anyway. Possibly leave out the sugar. Definitely, I'm going to leave out the cocoa powder, the baking cocoa this time, because I put a lot in. It was a little bitter, so I'll try it without it and see how I like it without any cocoa at all. And that'll be my next attempt at a cream cheese based pie recipe without it being a pie anymore, because I'm going to drop the pie crust, and it'll be more like a candy bar. A cream cheese flavored, coconut flavored candy bar. Cream cheese coconut candy bar. Cream cheese coconut lemony candy bar. Yeah. Which has the added benefit of having beeswax in there, but you wouldn't know it. And I could even stop calling it beeswax candy, because that's probably a turnoff for most people. Well, beeswax? Why would I want to eat that? So I probably don't need to highlight that ingredient. So I think for my next recipe, candy recipe, and I'll be able to cut the cost, because I'll be using ingredients rather than somebody else's, like dried fruit is somebody else's that I have to buy retail, and it's pretty hard to get set a good price for something that it's costing me a lot of money, so it makes it harder to resell the finished product. But if it's something I can make from scratch, rather than just dipping something in a beeswax oil mixture, the price will come down. I think it'll be as little as $3 a pound, maybe. If I can keep my cost to $2 a pound, but I don't know the cream cheese. See, I had organic cream cheese in this mixture, so I may not fare any better. Anywho, yeah, I think I'm going to drop the word beeswax from the name of the candy, because there's so little in there. It's really it's not necessary to promote it in order to sell it. If anything, it's not a good way to try to promote the product and hope for sales. I don't know, maybe just call it Vinny candy. I don't know, I thought it was a good idea calling it beeswax candy. Oops. Uh-oh. Yes. Plan C. Kyle candy, that was plan A. Beeswax candy, that's my second, plan B. And maybe a third one will be something else. I don't know, cream cheese candy. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Figure out something here.